So we're also going to take a quick peek here at paper sizes. So there are basic paper sizes. And you ever pull up a printer and you go to pick your letter size, and then you see all these sizes like A4, A3, A5, and like you wonder what those are? Well, those are European and other countries' paper standards. So just like metric system, the United States has its own paper standards for sizes where the rest of the world uses a whole other format. And so they go on the A formats. So it starts with a basic size of paper, um, and then that's an A0. And if they cut that in half, that becomes an A1. And if you cut an A1 in half, that becomes A2 size paper. If you cut A2 in half, that becomes A3. If you cut A2 in half, that becomes A3, and so on. So there's kind of a logic and a logic to it. And the other papers, they all have different base sizes measured in millimeters. So your A papers versus your E papers versus C papers. And what it comes down to, and an interesting thing here, is that a letter size paper for us, if you look down here in the corner where I've circled in red, a letter size paper for us is different than the letter size paper for people in Europe, say. Um, um, our sheets are a little bit shorter and a little bit wider, where the European sheets are a little higher and a little skinnier. And interesting note, one time I was doing a design job for letter size paper, and I had to design for both, that it would be printed on European and American sizes. So I had to get the margins for both and use both margins into one design so that we could just take the one design file and have it printed on both different size papers. So looking at the North American sheet sizes, you can see we've got our standard 8.5 by 11 paper, and if you take that and you turn it sideways, you put two together, you get a 11 by 17. That's pretty standard. And then from there it starts to break down a little bit because you can turn the 11 by 17 sideways and fit two next to that. You'd get 17 by 22, but the actual standard is 17.5 by 22.5. And then the next sheet size up from that is a 19 by 25. That's a very common printing press size paper. And your 25 by 38. That's commonly referred to as a 40-inch press. That's the paper for a 40-inch press, which are some of the largest presses. I'm not expecting you to memorize any paper sizes, but it's good to know when it comes to designing something. If you're going to design a poster that's 20 by 26, it's going to be printed on a larger sheet of paper where there's going to be a lot of waste. And so you may consider your options of making it a bigger poster or making it just a little bit smaller to get it on a smaller sheet size, if possible. But just to keep your sheet size in mind, when your estimator is looking at your job, the estimator will be looking to see what size papers it can fit on, because that's what they're going to have to order.